Hello there. Today we're going to be doing some fursuit brushing with a little bit of informal chat. I left this from the last time. It hasn't been cleaned yet. Just to give you an idea what it sounds like before I clean it off. Now this has a retractable. All clean. We'll be doing a little bit of fursuit brushing, and then we'll be going on to just a little bit of prep for the fursuit. I have a convention coming up, and I just had to wash it. For a little behind the scenes, this is what the inside of my fursuit looks like. You can see the wonderful job done with the overlock stitching here, so that's always nice. We'll be flipping it inside out to give it a brush. I just put this through the washer and dryer, so washer on very cold settings, dryer on no heat. Again, talk to your fursuit maker for all the instructions. And when it comes out, it'll start a little bit rough looking, so I'll unzip it just so you can hear it. A little bit of tangled threads. I'll probably come in with scissors later on and fix that a bit. So you can see in here it's a little bit damp still in places. We'll be hanging it out to dry to sort of get that going. But I figured at least show you what it kind of looks like when it comes out of the dryer, because the inside is still very damp. Sorry, I just hit the microphone. So we're going to turn this inside out. Oh, it is very damp right now. A little damper than usual, so I'll have to definitely give it a good hang out and dry. It's incredibly humid outside, so I unfortunately can't really hang it outside dry because, well, it's so humid and so hot I'd be afraid of heat damaging it from there. Let me put this over here for a second while we flip the legs inside out. You can see the padding over here. This is what the padding looks like for my digigrid suit. And you have to be careful with these things, but you don't have to be scared, because if you do that, well, you won't do anything in the suit. And then, well, what's it just going to do? It's going to fill your closet out. Okay, so that's one leg out, and the other leg. Trying to do this all sort of in the range of the camera so you can follow along with me, if you will. Well, yeah, just turning it inside out gently. Okay. So now, the first time you wash this suit, you'll have this, oh god, I've ruined it. And again, as long as you use cold, you should be okay. So now, let's take a look at this. And we'll probably do some light drying on this before we finish it up to give you the finished idea what it looks like. But for now, let's see, make sure you can see the zipper there. So I don't want to overwork it right now because it is still quite damp. So I might just be hanging this up to give it a little bit of air dry first before I give it too much of a brush. But you know, you can always get the fibers going in the right direction before you do that. So you can hear this is the chest here. And the sleeves. I do dry it inside out, but with no heat, so it doesn't really take much of it out. It just gets the worst of it off, especially from the padding. It's really useful in drying the padding off. But you can see with just a little bit of work, you sort of start getting all the threads at least going, the fibers going in the right direction, right? And we'll dry this a little bit more, and then we will come back later once it's baked a little bit longer, so to speak. And the other arm. And yeah, the suit's been sitting inside out, so the inside really hasn't had much of a chance to dry out. So, with that, you can see again the coloring and the shape, roughly speaking, of the chest. I'm going to move the microphone a bit just to drag this way a bit more. And notice when I'm taking this brush, I'm pushing it instead of pulling it. So we're trying to keep as many of these threads inside there as possible without losing them. So it's kind of important to do it that way. And again, we're just trying to get the general shape of things looking a little bit better. So we'll put this here. And yeah, brushing on camera does take a little bit more effort because you're paying attention to the camera and you're paying attention to the brushing. I suppose the views would be off the chart for me accidentally destroying my fursuit while brushing it, but I wouldn't want to do that. And I hope you wouldn't want me to do that either. So you can see here, for instance, even though it's a little damp, the fibers are starting to come out better, and you're just getting the general shape of things. So we'll flip this over. And again, once we get this thing dried, we'll get a much better second coat, so to speak. And here, you can see Cheshie's very matted butt. That's some Cheshie booty right there. And again, we're not trying to make it perfect on the first pass. We're just trying to get stuff in the right direction before it sets. And I'll be hanging it up to sort of helping that out as well. And the mohawk I won't even worry about for now. Now, you can see here the back of the front of the arms here. I've already given that a little bit of a brush. So we'll do the back of the arms here. And the arms here. So now you can sort of see we're getting a little bit better shape here. Again, we're not trying to do major brushing yet. This is just the first coat. And once we get things in the right direction, what we'll do is we'll hang it up, and then we'll let things dry a little bit as it hangs, and then once it's finished hanging, drying a bit, then we'll start doing more. But just for comparison, I do have some of the gloves that the paws that I have put in there with it, and had a chance to dry a little bit more on the outside. So we'll take a look at that in a second too. And again, I expect some degree of matting in certain areas because, well, that's the areas you sit on, that's the areas that are where your legs rub your legs. You know, booty has to booty. So yeah. But you can see here, even though this is actually quite damp to the touch, you can sort of get it going in the right direction and prepared. And once it dries, we can get the finishing touches on this. And even down here, which you can, like these corners are where when you turn it inside out, the dryer still is exposed to it. You can see what it sort of looks like and feels like here. It's still very fluffy down there. So it just needs a little more time to dry the more interior parts. And then it'll be ready. But before we cut to that, to the hang dry, what I'll do is I will show you the paws. Before we pause, I will show you the paws, if you will. But yeah, just letting it sort of dry. See here? Look at that. So, before we pause, I will show you paws. Now, let me just move this here and fold this over just to sort of. So these are the paws as they came out of the dryer. Again, on delicate too. You can see a little bit of staining there, probably from picking things up. Not a lot to do on the paws, but you know, just a little finishing touches. Again, just a little things. Part of my stomach there. I need to eat something apparently. Oh yeah, I definitely need to eat something. So yeah, there's one of the paws. Sorry about the stomach noises. I clearly need to eat something before I continue. There's the other paw. And, as a bonus, we have the nub tail. And the insides of these are a bit damp still, so I'll put some air through those. So this is the nub. The last con that I wore this at was Vernal Equinox, so I didn't use the long tail because it's outside in the winter and a tail that drags is a bad idea. So I stuck with the nub. You can see here, just a little nub. And here you can sort of see the shine on the tail. And that once, again, it's all matted looking for now, but once you give it a little brush, it'll be fine. This is all just part of your maintenance. So there we go. So you can see here, we've got paw, tail, and paw. And look, time to collect. So we are ready to start hang drying. So you'll start seeing that more hung up than you'll see it on a table. And yeah, these parts look like they're basically done and ready to sit there and do their final dry. This one's completely dry. These ones are just a little bit damp inside inside the fabric there. But yeah, that's what a brushed out tail looks like. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to Canference next. So it's all going to be packed into a bag and driven for several hours and then pulled out again. So I'll be doing the final brushing on site. Just enough to make sure it doesn't get all tangled and matted. So you've got, take care of this investment because, they're here for a good time but not a long time. And you want to take care of them. All right. Time to start hanging the suit up for part 2. Welcome back to part 2. I'm trying out this binaural microphone, so it might sound like I'm whispering in your ear. If so, well, let me know how it sounds. Should be in your left ear unless I get the stereo reversed. But yeah, let's see how this turns out. Are you ready? So thankfully, everything seems to have dried a little bit, and you can see at first glance you might be like, oh god, everything's kind of bad, but don't worry, we're going to fix that. Once again, obligatory. And we're going to start brushing out the top. I've got this hanging right now on a C-stand to get you some nice good audio. See? Once you give it a few brushes, everything just kind of smooths out. Look at that, just a little bit of dry time. And if I just take this over the center here, there's a bit, you can see there's a bit of wet spots there. That's okay. And if I grab this, actually let's move the microphone a bit. So look at that. Well, a little bit of a tuft there. There we go. And if I go over to this side, and you can see at the top here that it's kind of tufted up there, but that's where the fursuit head is, so that's A, why it's always kind of matted up there, but B, why it doesn't really matter very much, because it's going to be it's going to be covered. See? It's a little more damp in the back there, but that's looking better already. Now let me raise the stand a bit. So now you got the middle section here, and this is already fairly smooth. Look at that. See? And again, the arms are already looking pretty good down here. But look at that smooth. Very smooth texture. Now, I don't know if I can raise it much higher, so I may have to actually lower the camera a little bit. Let me drop this microphone a little bit. Sorry as I whisper into your ear. There we go. As we pan down, or sorry, as we tilt the camera down, we don't pan. All the film bros are going to yell at me if I use the wrong term there. Please do yell at me in the comments, though, for using the wrong term. That'll be great. Let's get some engagement going here. Well, you can see Cheshi's Forbidden Belly Zone. And it looks overall okay. Let's take this off the hanger and flip it around. And it's going to be a little more rough back here. See? All rough. But see? Just a few strokes. If you're wondering, that's the hole where the tail is. It's right there. That's the tail hole. So I can stick a belt through. And don't worry, we'll lower it in a second or two just to sort of show you. See, look at that side. See how smoothly that comes out pretty quickly? And we'll lower it again so you can see the rest of it. But yeah, the mohawk's going to need a little bit more tufting. That may have to eventually be replaced, but the good news is that's a modular part. So that's easily removable and replaceable. Okay. Let's bring it down a little bit. And we're into the middle section there. Top here. See how it smooths out pretty quickly? Look at that. And again, arms. And yes, you can't do this. If you do this excessively, you will eventually take a lot of fur off of it. But doing this round isn't too bad. Like, here's what we got right now. Ooh, let's do this up to the ear. And so yeah, you do lose a little bit each time you do this, so you have to be gentle. But again, this is the life cycle of a fursuit. They may be here for a good time, but they're not always here for a long time. Now, okay, all the way, well, a little bit down more. There we go. So we're going to do the back section here. Again, I'm not worried about this part that much because, well, this is the part that you don't see because the head usually covers it. You can see it's just totally matted there. So I'm not going to fight that because I don't want to tear it out. But again, once you get to the visible part here, it's fine. And again, the suit covers down to here, and this is the extension of it. So all of this is completely just fuzzy now. Oops, there's a little section here. Is it? There we go. So yeah, we have some brushing going on, and then we will lower the camera in a second or two, and then we'll even do the legs of it. So just give me a second to raise everything and lower the camera. Okay, we're now down to booty height. That is a technical term, of course, the bootylicious height. But yes, we'll give booty a brush. Look at that booty brush. And again, I am not worried about this part down here because nobody's getting that close to my butt in this thing. So, we're going to lower the camera next a bit, and I'm going to lower the microphone to go with it. The sound of it going down. And we're going to lower the camera. So, we're into the legs now. And we'll turn it around in a second because, well, the back of the legs aren't that interesting. There is some nice little color gradation there, but the front is definitely where the actions act. Okay, and there you go. See how smooth this is now? And now, if we turn this around, turn around. Okay. So now we're into leg territory. Remember, don't skip leg day. Tilt this camera up a little bit. There we go. So now you see here the nice colors. Scarlet Wings did an amazing job on this with the colors there. So yeah, just like to show that off all the time. I'm also going to angle the microphone down a little bit, so the microphone pointed at proper booty height. And we'll start here. So you look at the before and after right next to each other. So this isn't dye or paint here. These are each individual pieces that have been sewn into these sort of wedge-shaped wefts, effectively, of the fur, which is kind of really neat to see how it turns out and gives you that cool gradation effect. It's a really neat look. Scarlet Wings did an awesome job with the colors on this. And just to compare the before and after, you see here, after the brushing and before brushing, just a couple minutes of work. That's all it takes. I should be doing more gentle brushing, shouldn't I? There we go. Slow, slow brushing. And we'll just lift the legs up to finish the bottom. There we go. And we'll do the bottom here. So there we go. And again, it doesn't take much. You can see just with a little bit of brushing, what was a mess becomes nice and smooth, and it's like becomes almost a color gradient. It's a really neat job, and it's beautiful legs. So we'll tilt the camera up and down a little bit so you can see it all. Oh wait, there we go. That's what the fur left over is. Oh, let's do it in your ear. Other ear. That's the binaural microphone. Let's see how we can get that effect going. I may need to put it closer to really get the true effect, but you get the idea. So there we go, and gone. Oops. There we go. So there you have it. We'll do a good pan up or a tilt up and tilt down, just to make sure you can see it all. But that is the brushing of a fursuit with some commentary. Inane commentary that doesn't say anything at all, but commentary nonetheless. So if we just tilt down. Ooh, it's a little bit matted in the middle there. Let's get that fixed before we stop. I don't want to end with see, there you go. That was just would have been a very bad note to end on. Give it a once over. And again, we would have done this again before the con started. Okay, let's go back to the panning up. Or tilting up. There you go, the chest, the arms, belly, into the chest. Oops, the tripod head is stuck there, and all the way up to the neck. See, starting up at the neck and the shoulders, and continuing all the way down. Anyway, some of it's got to dry a little bit more, and we'll let it hang for another little while. We'll put some fans on the insides of the hands, and that's all for the time being. Hopefully you've enjoyed this random filler content. And for those of you who are going to can ferns, I will see you there. Thank you.